Welcome to Now You're Talking Real Talk. Today we are celebrating International Women's Day. What I'd like to do is talk with these ladies who are our leaders and executives here at ePerformax about some of the challenges that we have as women in business, but also some of the things that we can do to overcome those challenges and be the success that we each want to be, both in business and in life. So what I think I'll do is start by asking the group, what are the challenges that we're facing today? Rush, what do you think?
I think it's really balancing your career and also your time with the family. I think that's the most difficult for me, and I think most can relate. It's really setting up time where you can spend a lot of time with your family and at the same time achieve the results you want in your career, which would definitely take care of your family too, right?
I can definitely relate to that. You want to be the best mom and the best at what you do at work.
Agree. But it's just so tough nowadays, particularly given the pace of business, our business specifically, right? So it's tough to strike that balance. And so I was wondering, Teresa, maybe we can throw it back to you. You know, being a business leader and a mother at the same time, what are the sacrifices that you've had to make along the way during the course of your career?
Well, it's really a great question because when you think about it, women are in that unique position for the most part. There are some men who are single fathers possibly, but in today's culture, we're expected to take care of the kids and do business without missing a beat, right?
Exactly.
You know, we can't use our kids as an excuse for not being able to do what we need to get done. And I've been facing that for over 20 years now.
I know.
My daughter's 22. And I remember when I first started the business, I didn't have any children. And it was much, much easier, I have to tell you. But I'm thrilled to have them now. I almost didn't. I waited a long time because I wasn't sure whether I would be able to do that balance. But I was thrilled when I have my beautiful daughter, and it was no doubt a challenge. So what I did is I just decided that I wasn't going to try to divide it into little pockets. I was just going to let it all roll together. That I was going to have to sometimes be, working and talking to the yaya about what needed to be done at the same time, right? Or I would be at home taking care of my daughter and talking to the office at the same time. So I didn't feel like I could separate into silos and be successful, because then I felt something was definitely going to suffer. By blending it together, I felt like I was able to do a better balance. What do you guys think?
That makes sense, I think.
Yeah, I
right?
agree. There'd be times that I'd be with my son, taking care of him and babysitting him, and I'd be working on my laptop.
I know.
And working on some stuff for the office. So.
I've also been on field trips and in conference calls at the same time. I'm feeding the giraffe and giving my team instructions.
There you go.
It's a very it is a challenge, but I think
It's
we've
possible.
found this route.
It's achievable.
At least we've
It
found
is achievable.
a way to make it work.
And I'd like to share that there's really statistics that globally we spend 40% of our time at work. Maybe Asian, in the US. So it's really a juggle. And I've heard of work-life integration. It's really not about balance. Like what you said, we really cannot balance it. So how do we the challenge is to integrate work and life. And that's another topic altogether.
Right. But is it culturally acceptable? That's one of the things that we grapple with, right? Because how do our families feel about us doing that?
Well, you know what, I think aside from actually balancing your time with your family and at work, there's also the perception that we have to correct or have to maintain, especially in our society in the Philippines. Women, especially the married or the mothers, the moms, when you spend too much time in the office, you are perceived as not a very good mom because you don't spend time with your kids. Right. And they're gonna blame you if your kids do something wrong. So when you're working, you're actually trying to take care of your family, and that's something that they tend to forget.
Yeah, it was different years ago. right? When women would just take care of the family at home, and it's the man who would usually work and take care of the needs. But right now, it's
Times are changing.
Yep. So we evolved to powerful women as we are, and we can do both. And I think there's no balancing between both. There were times when, there's an event for my son to go to, and then he would talk to me and ask me questions, and I can't because there's an urgent situation at work, and you have to solve it right then and there. And he's talking to you, and he can feel that you're not with him really, and you have to decide right then and there, should I prioritize this one or should I do this? And it's tough, but we were able to do it, and I think a lot of the women out there are doing it.
Right. Like being a single mom too, I've experienced everything that you've experienced. But I think at the end of the day, it's a cliche, but it's really the quality time that you spend with your family. Like when we have dinner, I make sure that we turn off our phones. Well, we don't turn it off, but we don't look at our phones, and we have that conversation like, how was school today? How are your friends? So it's really just that bonding time. I think that's important, even if you don't spend a lot of time together. So for me, that has worked.
That's a really good point, Apple, that you have to set up some specific times, like whether that's breakfast every day with your
Or
children.
quality, I think.
And you really do dedicate yourself to that moment. Or you say to them, look, on Saturday or whatever my day off is, we're going to go do this together. And that's not to say you can't get a call in the middle of it all, but I think also the honesty is the best policy. I've always been really honest with my kids and said, I want to be here with you, but you need to know that there's an important call coming in, and when that call comes, I'm going to take that. My daughter's first toy was a fake computer because she would sit next to me and pretend like she was working while I was working.
That's smart.
Yeah. we had working sessions, and she had her little business phone, and she would talk to customers. But it's fun, and now, of course, she's going to be a very successful businesswoman as a result of it. I'm very proud of her for that.
That's a very good example. I think work-life integration is very important, I think nowadays especially. And I'm very proud that our company is actually doing that more often now. It's really influenced us to be better parents and get our family more involved in our events, getting to know what we really do here in the office. So I'm really proud to be part of it.
I like what you said, Kate. Sorry, I just got too excited to share that. Besides the perform culture, I love that our company acknowledges the importance of family culture. So we're able to really integrate work and life here at ePerformax.
Well, one of the reasons
I'm experiencing it
Good.
myself.
Good. One of the reasons that we are like that is because we are run by a woman.
Yep.
I mean, if you think about it, right? Because I'm going to be that person, and you guys are that way with your teams.
Yep.
So the more women that we have that appreciate the challenges, the more that we will.
I was very scared when I first started in ePerformax as a teammate. I had this preconceived notion that my boss is a man. He's most likely going to look for a man to promote. But then when I first met Teresa, I realized, okay, I've got a chance. It was very empowering for a lot of women in the company to be led by Teresa, so very appreciated.
Well, and that brings up an interesting point. The difference between men and women working together in the environment. Do they really have a strategic advantage over us?
No, not at all. They'd say that
We will
women
never
are
agree
emotional.
to that.
They would say women are emotional. Running a business, being emotional is never a good thing. But I say a good balance of emotions and wits will definitely be key in success of the business, because you are going to be able to build the empire while leading with the heart.
I think we can turn the emotions that we have, into something advantageous.
Yep.
Being empathetic with your team members, also being compassionate. I mean, without crossing that line that you're too emotional. So I think that works for us as women.
And at the end of the day, you can't really take emotion out of it. That's part of being human. That's
Right.
part of who we are, right? So you can't 100%, even if you say business must be cold and objective, right? Whatever decisions you have to make, that's just not going to happen for as long as you are human. Regardless of whether you're talking about business or any other sphere of your life, you have to take the emotions into consideration. That's not to say that you're going to allow it to become a weakness, right? To Apple's point, there is a way to be able to harness that.
Yes, I agree. And I think in the kind of industry that we're in, we're managing people. I think it's an advantage for us if we are in touch with our emotions. I've received feedback with one of the guys that I supported before. He's not under my roster now, but he's now reporting to a man. And so when he gave me feedback, he said that he's thankful that I got to handle him and that now he's reporting to a guy because he gets to get the best practice of having a male leader and a female leader. And to your point, he said that he learned managing his emotions when he was under my support. So he said that. And it helped him support his team now, getting the best practice from my being a woman, being able to listen to the emotion of my people, and, being a man, learning how to, put his foot forward when he has to make tough decisions and stuff like that. So I think, there's advantage to being a male or a female. Not one is an advantage over the other.
Well, that's a very good point. And I think for a long time, people wanted women to behave like men.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
In the business world. But you bring up a very good point that we have to leverage the advantages that we have as individuals, whether we're women or men.
Yes.
And because we're women and men, there are benefits to both, right? The key is, and what they don't want to see, is a woman fall apart. And I can't imagine any of us doing that. That's just a stereotype that doesn't exist anymore. That doesn't mean that we can't shed a tear every now and then.
Well, that's true.
We do that because we're human, as you said, and we're women, and women do that. And that's
Need to
okay.
release.
I think we
Absolutely.
have to manage when we are going to show our emotions and not. I think it has to be in the right place, in the right, avenue or something. We can't just break down anytime we feel emotional or when we have our periods. As they would always say that. Oh, it's probably the time of the month, right?
Yeah.
But no, I think we have to be managing to it because it can be our strength. You know how
Absolutely.
they say that the Prince Charming would come to aid the damsel in distress. So sometimes when you show vulnerability, it can be a force that can bring your team together.
Oh, that's interesting.
Because
it may not
they
be a prince though. It can also be
a princess, correct?
Or a whole team.
right? Yes.
Exactly.
But then there's nothing wrong with being vulnerable either. I think that's really important to be able to show vulnerability, humility. As a woman, I think when I was younger, I overcompensated for being a woman, so I had to be tougher. You have to be tough. And as a result of that, I had some pretty terrible nicknames. None that we can share right now.
I thought this is real talk.
Yes.
Let's just say it definitely started with a big B. Okay?
I think we've all been called out at
Right?
one point or another.
Right. And I even remember one day my brother called me that. And I said, wow, you're saying that because I'm confident in what I'm thinking and what I want to do. And you're unhappy with the fact that you don't agree with me. That's your problem, not mine. He's like, that's a good point. He actually said that. He says, I don't like what you're doing, and I don't like that you won't go along with what I want you to do. And I'm like,
I was curious, were you a teenager then?
we were adults. We were young
adults.
adults. Yeah, young
So,
adults.
starting out as the CEO, that was very tough
Yes,
job to have.
yes.
But did you have challenges that you could share with maybe aspiring leaders? How did you overcome that and working with
So many.
men leaders?
So many. Well, and I'm older than all of you. So when I was starting a business and I was very young, no man I spoke to could really respect me in business at that moment. I had to earn it. I had to earn it every single time. I never walked into a meeting or a room where people said, I'm sure she's got something relevant to say. They were all like, oh, who is she? And oh, check her out, you know? I'm like, I dealt with, which hopefully you guys don't have to deal with. I'm making that assumption, but it may not be true. I dealt with a lot of sexual harassment in business when I was young. You guys don't have to deal with that as much today, right?
How
Or some are not really
everybody's
spoken
outspoken.
openly.
Yes.
Maybe there's still some that's happening, but you know how social media now is.
Yes.
You can be easily exposed.
Yes. Well, that's a blessing.
Yes.
Because that was a really tough time dealing with that. But you can't let it destroy you. And I didn't ever see the point of, taking any legal action or do anything like that, because how does that benefit anyone? Just be strong, walk away. That's all I said to myself. So anyway, that was one of the challenges that I faced, and I had to work really hard. I had to do more than what was expected of me all the time to prove myself as a woman. And I think it's wonderful today that we don't have to do that as much. That doesn't mean that we don't have to do it, though, because I still, even as a leader in the company and the president, I still run into men in the business world who are chauvinistic. And they believe that, men are better at business than women. They're very wrong about that. I don't think we're equals, but I don't think they're better. I think as we were talking about earlier, we each bring something important to the table. So what is the key to getting through all that, whatever the challenge is? And to me, it's knowing who you are and being confident in what you bring to the table and not letting other people judge you. When someone's criticizing you, which I love criticism. I know it sounds weird, but I love criticism. Because when you get criticized or when you get judged or when you get feedback that is negative, you have to look at that and go, what if any of that is true? Instead of being, oh my God, I can't believe they said that about me. It's like, what is true about that? Because if there's truth in that, I want to correct it. And if there's no truth, then I can walk away. I'm fine with that. I can be the judge of that. And then when you start looking at the world like that, you don't have that feeling that someone else can control your emotions. And I think you need a confidant or a mentor that you can talk to. And I think if you don't have one, you should get one. And someone that, and I don't think it should be your mom. Love moms, but moms are not good in that regard. It needs to be someone in a similar role or higher than what you're in right now, who can say to you, let's talk about what that criticism was. How do you feel about it? What do you feel is relevant and irrelevant? And then you can say to that person, here's what I think, am I on the right track? Because it's sometimes hard to see ourselves, right?
Agree. I think mentors, play a huge part in developing people like us. I think that I would be curious, if you don't mind my asking. So, who's the most significant? Is there a significant mentor that comes to mind if we talk about someone who helped form and shape the kind of leader that you are today?
Interestingly enough, there are, of course, multiple mentors over the years, but more of them were critical than supportive. Because as a woman, I had more people telling me, you can't do that. That won't work. That's not possible. Even my dad, and I love my father, said, now why do you want to go to college? And I had to fight to even say, because I want to go to college, I want to, develop myself so I can be in the work world and have a career. And he's like, you're just going to get married and have kids. Why would you do that? That was my father saying that. So I spent a lot of time reacting to those kind of things, and it made me stronger. Now, role models that I looked up to and said, can I be like that person? They were mostly men when I was growing up. So didn't have a lot of women in business. Today, I have so much admiration for so many people in business, and I don't distinguish between men and women anymore. I just look for what is the characteristic that I'd like to emulate. So that wraps up this session of Now You're Talking Real Talk. It's been great chatting with these ladies, and I hope that you have enjoyed listening in on the conversation as much as we have enjoyed having it. So thank you, and as you know, I really appreciate each and every one of you, both men and women, but I have to say, go women.